Go ahead and get started. It's 9 o'clock now. So welcome everybody. This is our airport update meeting. It's October 3rd, 2022, 9 a.m. In attendance are Commissioners Brooks, Filios, and Duncan. Commissioner Filios is joining us by telephone. I'm calling this meeting to order. Are there any changes to the agenda, Stephen? Nope. All right. And so our first discussion item is review of September 22 Advisory Board minutes along with capital improvement plan presentation.
Morning, Commissioners. We'll start with the CIP plan. This is our yearly review of our CIP. This is kind of our synopsis of what we see for the next 5 years. Before we kind of get into it, just kind of going through what the CIP is and how we get to this point. You should all have this presentation already before you, and also the actual spreadsheet showing what everything is already. But a lot of things are a little bit, how we get to this point already is we can't really change the next 2 to 3 years out for us. And that's, even the fourth year is a little bit challenging. You can, but it gets very challenging. And actually the fourth year, if I remember correctly, is the FAA won't let us because it's a safety project for them. So it's the way the CIP gets set up is it goes into what's called the ACIP, which is the FAA's CIP process. So 22 is already spent. 23 is pretty much set in stone. We are going to be getting, we estimate we'll be getting these already. And we say estimate because that's as strong of a term as the FAA will say without ever committing to anything. They will, so that's why we talk about this. So far this year, we've gotten 22. They funded the ARFF Index A truck. We list this every year because our truck currently is over 20 years old and truly does need to be replaced. We just replaced the starter. Our pump probably needs to be replaced. It's starting to become a maintenance nightmare for us, and it truly just needs to be replaced on it. For 23, we have construct taxiway Bravo 4, which is on the north side of the and solves a connector issue. We have rehabilitate runway 624, which is maintenance. This number is a little bit incorrect because this number is showing only doing about 70% of the runway, but the FAA has a project fell off of the FAA's ACIP, and so they were able to find about $1.3 million more. So it actually looks like we'll do about 90% of the runway rehab. There's two, we don't want to touch the decoupling section because we have to reconstruct the crown that's part of that runway as part of the decoupling. And then also because of the light threshold, what's called the Mausers on the 6th end, there's a weird geometry situation that we need to basically tear everything out and rebuild that section. We aren't touching, we're leaving about 50 feet short there. It's not, the FAA doesn't have the funding to deal with it basically until a later date. So there's going to be not a complete redo, but a partial redo for that. Then also the construction of the remainder of the SRE building, the bill money for that portion. We are talking about the remainder of the bill money to do a seal coat and slurry coat on taxiway November. We've been kicking around with TO for the last about month. We've been noticing as we've been crack sealing, we've finally been able to get people, with being fully staffed, we've been able to do some maintenance catch up. And we've spent about 3 full days on our portion of November, our north side taxiway. And as we started inspecting more and more, we started to find significant issues with the section of pavement. And that's why we're talking about doing what's called a slurry coat. What's happening is we're losing the top coat. It's starting to break apart. We're also noticing, unfortunately, a load factor issue. So we have some overweight aircraft that weren't designed. This pavement, unfortunately, 20 plus years ago, wasn't designed to handle the loads that we're seeing today. And we're starting to see a load failure on a portion of the pavement as well as some very odd top coat failure that is it's segregated to one section, but it's actually in this area right here. And so what we're looking at doing, we're still talking with the FAA. The FAA hasn't bought into this plan yet, but to do a slurry coat on the west side of November from Empire West, and then a top coat or a seal coat to the east of that, which will use up the rest of the building. So, any questions on 23 and 22?
Can you tell me what the
Nope.
years are as far as do we match up with FAA years?
Yes.
Okay.
We do.
Okay.
24 and 25, we start getting a little bit more flexible with, except for 24 is not so much. The FAA has already allocated funding into extend taxiway Charlie. We have design reconstruction of taxiway Alpha. We also are using bill money to acquire multifunction snow removal equipment. We also, this design and construction Mauser threshold relocation, that is an item that the FAA is requesting us to do as a solution to address their problem. We were actually spending more money in meetings than we were at that point. It was myself, 2 TO engineers, and about 15 FAA people were sitting in meetings trying to have them figure something out when we were offering solutions. So that is in our portion of 24,000. We were actually starting to eclipse some serious money if we just didn't say we would do this. So also in 25, we're looking at using our bill money to do some signage plan and redesign of our signage. Our signage does not meet FAA sign criteria. You're supposed to have everything be Alpha 1 through 5. We have things that don't match that, so it's just getting it to standards. In 25 was kind of a down year for the FAA. We list acquire land, but that may or may not happen. We just don't know. So, land is not always a high priority with the FAA. It can be and it can't, and it may not be. So, and this is kind of what 24 looks like. This is extending Charlie, and then deletion of Delta crossing. Acquire this land on this side. For 26 through 28, this is kind of where everything is partially in motion, but it does have major safety projects such as the decoupling and reconstruction of taxiway Alpha. Those 2 items are major safety projects, and Alpha is definitely showing its age, so we need to be looking at doing those. We also do using bill money to acquire another SRE piece, a snow removal, snow blower specifically, because our snow blowers are 20 plus years old. They need to be replaced. We also show in 27 design and construct taxiway geometry issue. This is kind of, 27 is starting to be where it gets really flexible on what the FAA has. They haven't truly set their ACIP yet. They should have that meeting here in the next few weeks on what that looks like. So we'll see how that shakes out for them. Then on 28, we show a master plan update as well as the remaining 72 acres to the west of that plan we showed before. So 26 will be a major construction year for us with a lot of work done in that period of time. And a very complex phasing project, a very interesting summer and fall and probably spring and a lot of things. And then also addressing obviously this area too, with the airport admin falling within the safety area of the runway, but then also in the safety areas of that taxiway. And realistically, it's probably falling within about 10 to 15 feet of the edge of the pavement for that taxiway. And the land purchase, with total funding being about 28 million, about 26 million of it being AIP. So, which, just as a point of reference, the state of Idaho gets about $3.3 million in state apportionment to GA airports. We do compete, some of these projects, because of what they are, will get fed or national discretionary money. So we'll get different. The FAA has about 17 different pots of money, how they allocate different things. So it varies a lot. So this is everything that's eligible. As you can see, there's a lot of things, but there's a lot of things that are not eligible as well. So for history-wise, this is since 2015 or 2005, we've received about $21 million in grant money, and we're right now slated to be. There's a couple. I will fully admit that there's some that are not going to. The land is a big question mark to me, but you can easily tell that we're going to be north of 20 million in the next 5 years as well. This is kind of the summary of funding. It was state, local, and federal, obviously, with federal making up about 90% of it. If we were a commercial service airport, the state of Idaho actually gets 93.5% for commercial service airports, but GA airports don't. So, are there any other questions?
None for me.
Right. So we'll go back to the minutes. So,
Sure. Greg G. Feller, I'm currently the chair of the advisory board. The meeting was really pretty much factual. We had Corey with TO, now Adore, run through this plan that Stephen just went through. And then our discussion was really centered around a little bit of confusion when the Forest Service brought in the temporary tower, and how it came in and how it left and how it came back. And so I think after talking with Stephen, I think next year they have a much better plan, we hope, so it avoids some of the confusion of what went on there. And then that was really it. I mean,
Just a question. When it goes someplace, where does it go?
they must go back home.
I mean,
Yeah.
So the temporary tower is still sitting at the airport, but the staffing.
okay, we're talking the staffing, not
And-
just the physical structure.
So the temporary tower was in operation twice this year.
Okay.
The first time was a week. The second time was 3 weeks. The first time it was pulled due to lack of staffing and lack of fire operations. The second time was pulled again due to a couple different reasons. Sounded like the same reasoning. But of course, as soon as they pulled it, we had 3 or 4 fires that went operational, and
I got it. I
Yeah.
was imagining them towing this thing down the road, but
it is quite literally a trailer is what it is. It has a trailer with 3 windows on it that look out one direction. It's not a great solution. The airport actually provides them an iPad or a tablet that they can view an ADS-B tracking system on. They have a lot of trouble with it because they don't understand the airport, they don't understand the region. Pilots get confused because they're used to reporting waypoints, not distances. And it's right now, I can tell you the Forest Service is actually contemplating just getting a contract tower in next year, which is between $2,000 and $3,000 a day, because they were very unhappy with how the FAA handled this year. I know the Flight Standards Division of the FAA was also very unhappy with, from my conversations, I'm not going to speak directly for them, but from my conversations, they did not appear to be very happy with how ATO, which is Air Traffic Organization, handled this. As the airport, we received, they closed the tower. That night I received an email saying we pulled the tower. That was a notification as the airport we received. So we had very little warning. We heard over the frequency saying at like 4 o'clock, oh, we're not coming back tomorrow. We think. Well, so it was definitely an unsafe, in my opinion, unsafe situation when they're not providing great notification at the airport. We can't provide great notification out to anybody either.
Yeah, so like you said, Bill, is that the trailer's still sitting there. So you see it there, well, I wonder if the tower's open. I wonder if it's not. It was open yesterday. Now today it's not. So you check your notice, but it's like the airport tried to send out notices and they changed the hours, then the FAA changed the hours of operation. So it was just really confusing. I think it still is.
Yeah, we got an email that stated they would operate between these hours, then they never opened those hours. So one of the items, the part of the meeting that, just so everybody's aware, that TO was actually purchased out. They're now owned by Ardura, which is a company based out of Florida. JR stated he was planning on being there. But
He's behind you.
he's behind me, so he can talk. He can talk then.
Yeah. You need to come to a microphone if you're going to update us, and I think should be one on the table right back there. Yeah, so just push the.
Press a button.
Yep.
Make
Yeah.
it green.
Got it. Okay, thanks. Yeah, we're excited to announce that TO was acquired by Ardura. It's about 1,000 person firm, and with the addition of TO, we're a little over 1,200 folks now. They had no presence in the Northwest and did not practice in aviation, and they were interested in getting into both of those sides of the business. We've been working with them for quite a while now, about the last 6 months or so, in setting up the structure. It officially closed on September 1st, so about a month ago. And our staff and our duties will remain the same. There's no change in employees. 100% of our partners at TO are now partners at Ardura, and it's basically kind of a hybrid between a merge and an acquisition. So, yeah, you'll expect to see the exact same staff at the airport, and we're excited to add some depth there with a lot more expertise in water, wastewater, and transportation is what their bread and butter are. So,
Okay, great. Thank you.
you bet.
Oh, your microphone now, Stephen. Sorry.
I pushed the button. One of the other things that we talked about was just the construction's phasing plan that Corey did a presentation. It's in the packet if you have any questions about that. It's part of the requirement that they, under their contract, was doing a presentation for that. That'll be a pretty complex project too because of just the closure of 624, which is our main runway. And that'll be for about 2 weeks for next year. But we need to do that. We're starting to see some spalling and issues with our asphalt as well, so we need to deal with that. For staff updates, I'm give you a heads up that our taxiway D North, that's just AIP 48, our contractor there we've had some letters go back and forth, if you recall. We're still having problems with that gentleman. So we're trying to close the contract out and he's not wanting to. So he's not being cooperative. So that may end up being escalated up higher. I've actually never had a contractor not want to get paid. So, because we're keeping 5% retainage on $1.3 million. So, everything else is going well. We should actually have a pre-design or kickoff meeting for the SRE building going soon. I think that's this week. Gulfstream Road extension is nearly wrapped up. I'm going to touch on this. The reason why Rob and I believe Greg are here is there are some of the tenants that have been requesting a reduction in rent due to them paying for the utility infrastructure improvements. And as I've said from the start, it's either everybody does it or nobody does it. I'm not going to do this piecemeal. To me, it's everybody in there. The other comment I've said is everybody signed a lease knowing that there was no reduction beyond the 50% reduction for the first year. But I would be happy to bring it to the board. If the board wants to entertain it, that's up to the board on what they want to do. So, we haven't really had a conversation about it as an organization, or Rob and I briefly had a conversation about it, about what that could look like, but to me, I'm not at a point where I feel like I have a solid number or grasp of what that number could be, where I feel comfortable yet, but I just wanted to give you a heads up about that.
Okay.
HEC planning and sewer inventory, everything's moving forward. There was a question, Greg actually asked me to add this to specifically about a fire NOTAM. Currently, we have a NOTAM that actually auto-canceled on about fire activity in the region. That was actually issued by me after about 2 hours of back and forth with the FAA about who could actually issue it, because the Forest Service requested us to issue it, because it was after the FAA pulled the tower, and from what I understand is Labor Day weekend, basically the Forest Service pilots pretty much told the local pilots that were operating in the field, get out of our way, we need to fly. So that's what I understand occurred from talking with my staff. So, and then we just talked about the advisory board expirations. That was it.
Okay.
That, I guess I should add to that NOTAM about the fire activity. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but to me, it was like, okay, they pull the tower, then we issue a NOTAM. That basically to me, it just says, be careful. Heck, we could do that with all the flight training out there too sometimes, so. But it was a solution, I guess, temporary solution.
It was an offer. It was a solution, yes.
All right, I have a couple questions if you're done
Yep.
with that. On the Gulfstream Road project, how close are we to being paid?
We are, Stancraft, or the organizations that are representing Stancraft, have paid us for 1/3 of the lots. The other lease, the Smock lease has paid us, should be paying us here shortly. The Ahern lease has not paid us at all. And those are, Brinkmeyer has paid us completely. I believe, unless, Bob, did you come in and pay us at all? Yeah.
Not yet, we'll have the other half.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so it's approximately, I'd say 3/5 paid.
Okay. If you can email me that nice spreadsheet you did, super easy to read and very helpful if you can.
Yep, we can show the amounts paid too, and I can
Yeah.
talk to Kim about it.
That'd be awesome. Thanks. And then let's see here. I had. Oh, how did the closures go?
The runway closures went pretty well. Forest Service was unhappy with us for a little bit due to apparently not being notified, even though they're on our email lists. But closures went actually pretty well. It helped that it rained and we had no traffic. So, but we still had, Stancraft still had, I think, 10 to 15 or 10 jets throughout the days, both days of the 624 closure, and then it rained during the 220 closures the whole time. So nobody did anything.
Okay.
A few years ago.
They completed all the work, so they're done for the year. And
Okay.
we're now waiting until next year so we can get parts and things from American Made, and we'll have a generator in about 45 weeks.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
It was it was a year. It's a year to get an American Made generator.
No, it's unfortunate. Chris, did you have any questions on the advisory board minutes?
Nope, I'm fine.
Okay, Bill? Then, all right, well, if we're ready, we can go on to the SCBA discussion.
Yep. So this is. We thought we would be able to. I didn't add this to the budget in what, February when we created the budget, because I thought we could actually limp through another year. The problem is as we started doing more and more training, we did submit this as part of the Homeland Defense grant to actually get this as part of that grant process, so we knew pricing, because I knew we were gonna have to do something soon. But I thought we'd be able to limp through one more year of our current SCBA. Our SCBA's are 20 years old. Our masks are all 20 years old, basically. Unfortunately, as we've started to use them and we've started to do more training with them, with new staff members, they are breaking. Because they're 20 years old, they're rubber, and actually as we started talking with Curtis, who is basically the only fire supplier that any of the region uses, they won't even look at our masks, our packs. They go, we won't even say that they'll support you to go into a fire. We'll just tell you to go buy a new one. So we asked them, okay, so how much would it cost for us to buy new? The same style, whatever, that type. That's why there's two quotes, and it's quite ridiculous. It's $22,000 if I remember correctly, or yeah, it was That's a $24,000 quote is just for the masks, and that's it. And then the full system to replace to upgrade our packs, our masks, everything to be in line with all of the other fire departments in the region is $33,000. So that's where I'm kind of stuck at this point of what do we do here? We didn't plan to budget because I thought we could limp through for another year, but I don't think we can, because we already are down. We needed to buy 2 more masks. We're needing 2 more anyways. We lost 2 more masks already. We have to do something.
So is there a grant available?
We've talked with Jelena, with the auditor. She's pretty sure there's some money floating around to at least cover some of it. We're gonna talk with the state about it too. The thing is we need to order these by probably the end of October at the latest, because they're gonna see about a 20% price increase is what they're saying. So, it's, even if we order them today, it's nothing like anything else. We're not gonna see them probably for 6 months.
Right. So can you get it on a business meeting and then
Yep.
we'll
I just
talk
wanted to
about?
chat with you first.
Yeah. No, I that's not something I think that we can really do without or wait on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep, I can easily do that. And my goal would be is to order them and then look for some sort of grants elsewhere to try to find something.
Sure. Chris, did you have any questions on that? Bill?
No.
Okay. All right, if that's all, Stephen, on that, we can
Yep.
go to sewer repairs.
Yep, so we have a couple of repairs that we've found. There's three specific items. The first one is kind of on the, basically the liner of the tube connection points basically needs to be replaced. What happened is that seal that goes around the connection points has failed. Either it wasn't installed right, failed over time, we just don't know. And it is kind of shown on that map, this map here, of where it is. And we need to excavate, cut in and replace that section and do that. We don't have quotes for that yet. I'm just telling you that that's what it is. We're trying to find somebody to get quotes on that at that point. The second point, I preface this, we wanted to run through the sewer. We got the sewer results back. We wanted to run through this just so that everybody's aware that what's wrong with our sewer system. The second issue is a manhole. It's at the end of the line. It looks like it was hit during a paving operation and it collapsed in the manhole, and there's no connections at that point, so it just looks like it's collapsed in. We could never find it. It's been then paved over. So we need to excavate that area, find out what's wrong, excavate everything out of it, redo the manhole, and repave the area. Not that hard, it's just finding it. The third thing, which was the miles cost, we actually attached the entire emails. That is actually pretty expensive. There's, from the sewer report, that they recommended was doing specifically the control panel and the SCADA, which is the control system that HARBs come on. Because the control panel dates back to the 80s. And it's old. If you did everything, it's over $200,000. Based upon our calculations of what our sewer fund should be, counting revenues from this year, our fund balance, the payments to HARBs, we should be sitting somewhere between 130 and 170. So we should have enough to cover the paneling costs, the SCADA costs, and also do the repairs that are needed to the system itself. We do not have enough money to actually do the excavation, the pumping, the pumps, anything like that at this time. So it could be an item that we do at a later date, but we really should look at replacing the panel and getting the connection, the communication system.
Okay. So is that something you and I can talk to Harbs about just to make sure? Because then if we need to put some extra money towards it, so we're not, I don't want to do double the work kind of thing. So I'd like to have that conversation with them as well.
Yep, we can.
Okay. That would be great. All right. Chris, any questions on the sewer? We're not hearing you if you're on mute.
Sorry, no, I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Bill?
Just a comment, I'm glad you're still calling it a manhole instead of a person hole.
I can change that if you want.
But,
I can change that if you
no, I don't want, it's okay.
No.
Check its pronouns.
Yeah. All right. So Stephen, if that's it, then we'll go to public comment. No? Nothing? Oh, all right. We will take Greg first, and then we'll get your online one. So, Greg, you got to come to a microphone. Otherwise, people in TV land can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
My comments are probably too lengthy for today's meeting. Do I have 3 minutes, or is this in kind of detailed? But what I'd like to do is I'd like to request a meeting with the commissioners to discuss that taxiway road sewer water project out there and the details of it. Mr. Kiergaard sent a letter down to Ahern advising that he hadn't seen any activity out there when in fact they've been trying to get permits since April. There's a lot of activity going on within the organization. They probably could get their permits within the next 2 weeks. They've got DEQ and Panhandle Health, and I think they've got a tentative sign off from the planning department at this point. There was a lot of discussion back and forth about the snow loading and that kind of thing that, there just needed to be some education for them. But there's the letter from Stephen prompted, it goes through a big organization when it comes through with essentially a threat to abandon the lease. So it went to the lawyer, and there's a lawyer response that, Stephen, I think, have you seen that yet officially? And a request that, Stephen was out of town when it came in, and a request for some detailed discussion about that. This is a lot of words to say that if we can get to where they've some assurances with the council for Ahern, they'll write a check for payment in full as soon as they get their answers. But I think, I'm happy to discuss it with the commissioners individually or as a group, but we would request a near-term agenda item so that we can get some action on it, so we can send the check. The money's in place and ready to go.
All right. Bill, do you have a problem with scheduling a meeting?
No, I would rather meet individually myself.
Okay. So then we'll have you, Chris, what's your preference?
Yeah, as Bill is the liaison, I would say let Bill meet first, and then we can go from there.
And that would actually be preferable to me too,
Okay.
to the detail involved.
Sure. Okay. Then, are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. then you can just get with him and get on his schedule.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Okay, and online?
Harry Cravato commented, "What is the beef with the contractor?"
I'm sorry.
What is the beef with the contractor? That was his comment.
Oh. The contractor that you talked about who does not want to close out. There's no detail here about what the remaining issue is.
It is, it has to do with what we've discussed previously, so. So it was the exec session, so.
Okay. All right. So Harry, if you're still watching, unfortunately it's executive session stuff, but I will get with Stephen and see if there's anything releasable at this point, but I'm thinking not yet. So,
I
yeah.
don't think so.
Okay. All right. So if that is it, 9:35, meeting adjourned. Thank you all.